And what about the IP kind of issues around, you know, are other people doing this? Are they looking into it? What do you have to
It's really difficult to get IP on software, especially if you're combining the functions of a few different things into one, which is pretty much what we're doing. There are a few things we've got IP on, and we've got a patent application in for, but it's not for the overall concept of obviously a QR code or anything, because it's mainstream kind of normal stuff. I think we are quite confident that we can stay ahead of the competition. At the moment, we're leading kind of the market. There's nobody else doing what we're doing, and we think that we can develop what we're doing better than anybody else. I think it's a very difficult question. You get asked that a lot, especially because in the QR code field, everybody looks at just the QR codes and says, well, you know, anybody can do this. I think it's true, but you know, anybody can create a QR code link, but then to create the content for all the different platforms is actually is quite difficult. And then to keep up to date with all the new mobile phones coming out and make sure that the content's optimized for every single one is quite difficult. There's lots of things that we're doing that are relatively difficult and we're unique in, and we have got some patents, or applications at least, in for small amounts of what we're doing.
Twofold really. What are you doing about marketing, about making people aware of your product?
Yeah.
Because it's the first time I've heard of it and I really like it,
Yeah.
and we want some. And then where are you making money? Are you making money on selling the app, the CMS, or is it just through selling the business cards with the barcode on?
Well, that's a great question, because people aren't willing to pay for digital content generally. That's kind of it's really annoying for people who developers and stuff, because there's so many people out there developing software for free. It's quite difficult to kind of say, right, actually we're going to charge for software. What we've done is we've used it to add value to print and then sell the print. So although we don't sell the print ourselves, we don't print anything, we're not involved in that process at all, what we do is we sell the technology to printers who then use that to add value to their print. So although it might look like you're buying directly from us, you're actually buying from a printer. And so what we're basically, the way we're getting money off people is basically saying you're paying for the actual physical unit that does cool stuff, rather than you know, the software in the back end. So it's basically QR codes have given us a way to kind of link to kind of make that link between the digital and the real. And the real is what people are willing to pay for, and the digital people are generally not willing to pay too much for.
Marketing.
Marketing. We've got loads of different things we're doing. One of the things we use these things for events as well. So for Digital Birmingham, I think you mentioned that you saw at Digital Birmingham. We did the badges there, so you can actually scan the badges and you know, so you meet people and you can scan them. We're doing a little bit more in that as well, in that sector. So you'll be able to scan it, you'll be able to you know, give people feedback on the event, or ask questions through it, all sorts of things like that as well. But that's one, you know, for each event that we do, there's like 600 people. Again, what we do is we use the money, we use the QR codes to add value to the badges, and we charge for badges rather than charge for the software. That's one way it's been working for us. The usual stuff like social media, direct email, you know, that kind of stuff we use as well. PR has been really good, because as a young person out of university, the press are just willing to write pretty much anything you give them, and it's incredible actually. So you can get so much free marketing from that. We've, you know, from Birmingham Post, Birmingham Mail, we've just absolutely everywhere. You can just give them the story and they'll put it in.
Just I asked a question about proximity to other entrepreneurs. I know you're in Faraday Walk, and how useful is it to be sited next to a lot of other startups who are in there? And presumably, given Digital Birmingham are in the same building, that's quite handy for those kind of contacts as well.
Definitely. Digital Birmingham, I mean, we got the Pillar Digital event through them. Yeah, it's really good to be around other startups, I think, in the sector that you're working in. It's been a huge help. We started off, we're no longer in there because we've got our own office, but we started off in an incubator with, I think officially it's like 70, but usually kind of about 30 in there at a time. Basically a huge room with little kind of desks that you work at. And it's through a scheme called Entrepreneurs for the Future, also another one called BCU, which I would really recommend. Basically you get free office space for 6 months, and they give you mentorship as well as part of that package. And that's basically government funded, because they want to try and promote entrepreneurs. Or all kind of enterprise. That's been really helpful, because whenever you've got a problem, you can, you know, even though it's something quite, you know, simple, like how do I pay tax to my employees or something like that. Everybody will have done that there who's got employees, so you just go and chat to somebody else and you save yourself, you know, a day of work trying to find out how to do it yourself. Or, you know, it's things like if you can sort of swap favours with somebody and say, look, I'll do your work, you know, again, goes back to getting stuff for free a little bit. but say, look, we'll give you free business cards if you guys do a free, graphic design for us or something. That kind of works quite well. So it's really, I think, really good to surround yourself with people doing similar stuff, and kind of so you can bounce ideas off each other and to stay up to date with what's new in whatever you're doing.
Which platforms do you develop for?
The current system that's online is HEC, iPhone, and the JavaScript-enabled phones. We've got a new update going out in the next, it should have been a couple of weeks ago, but it'll only be about in a week's time. Everything gets delayed. We'll cater for every single phone out there. So even the old kind of Nokias, which don't actually have any, this will just be text-based browsers. So it's all the platforms. And that's because it is a web app rather than a phone app. It's actually, it's as long as you get your sort of optimization right, it's not actually that difficult. It's basically, if you're a sort of developer, it's about having different views. In terms of applications, scanning applications, because you can scan it with any application out there, which are all free. We have our own application for HTC, and we're releasing an iPhone application in a couple of weeks. Purely for some marketing purposes. We're not charging for it or anything. It's just so people can, when we say to people, scan a business card, rather than say, scan it with BTag, which we currently do because they've got quite a good scanner, we can say scan it with a quirky app. It's just a bit of fun, really.
Why the decision to go with those two platforms and not the BlackBerry, which is predominantly a business phone?
Yeah, we've had the very, very good question, and something that we're actually sort of, working on quite a lot at the moment is that BlackBerry, our biggest client base is really people who have BlackBerries. That's why we've kind of made a huge update to our platform. But there are lots of scanners for the BlackBerry. So at the moment we're trying to focus on making our content work really, really well, so our videos and our pictures and stuff work for the BlackBerry. And I think the BlackBerry app will be the next one.
What kind of market research do you do, or did you do as you were developing? Because when you tell the story like this, it sounds as though you're diving into the next bit every time. And learning as you go along in so many ways.
I think there's a lot of that, learning as you go along. We obviously looked at whether there's any competitor there first. Is there anybody doing it? And the answer was no. And then if there isn't something there, I think the key is before going and developing the whole thing and making it perfect, try and sell to customers with like your minimum kind of viable product. What's the minimum you can do, and see if somebody will buy it. And if somebody doesn't buy it, then don't develop the rest of it. So that's kind of what we've been doing, is basically developing sort of the minimum of what we can to make it kind of a business, if you like, trying to sell it, and if we do sell it, then carrying on. That's kind of why we actually haven't continued with Mogo, which was the advertising, and that's also kind of why we haven't not focusing on expanding Kogo anymore, because we can't get the licenses for it. So I think what we kind of do is develop kind of what the minimum is, and then try it out, and then if there's a kind of a bite from the market, which we've seen for Quirky, but didn't really see for the other two, kind of follow it up.
And how difficult is it when you've got an idea and it's your baby, isn't it? And then you actually have to move on, or you have to decide that it isn't viable, but it's not going to do what you want it to do.
It is really, really difficult, but I think
you have to be tough.
It is, yeah. And something else I'd say is try and sell your product before you've got it, as a good test. So if you're selling photography or if you're selling a really cool type of shoe, try and mock it up in some software and try and sell it before you even got it. And then if somebody wants to buy it, you can then still say to them, look, I'm really sorry, we can't supply you. We'll still supply you in 2 months' time. But then at least you've that there's a customer out there for it. So try and sell it at the earliest possible that you think you can get away with it. To try and sell it to people, and make sure that's not your friends or your family or anybody like that, because they're pretty much guaranteed to buy it from you. Make sure it's people who actually look at your marketing plan, put together a marketing plan. How you're going to market, use that marketing plan to try and sell the product that you're planning on making or have half developed or whatever, and see how that goes.
You think if you hadn't found Quirky, which is basically it did everything that the other ideas didn't do, would it have been as easy to give up on the other ideas, or do you think you'd still be trying to put coffee carts out there?
It's a good question. I probably would have still been. Well, the thing is, I mentioned that. I mean, I've also I've had quite a few other ideas. I think if it wasn't Quirky, I think it probably wouldn't be Kogo. I think it'd probably be something else.
That would have been.
Yeah, I think you need to be quite strict, because these things cost loads of money. I mean, each outlet we open, well, the first one costs us, I think, about 40. The next one probably costs us about 35, which we basically funded through banks. So we've gone to HSBC and said, look, we've got a location, can you please give us money? And they said yes, because coffee is quite a safe industry. That won't happen with something like software, because software is quite risky. But with coffee, because you're buying, using that money to buy something physical, and there's a pretty much guarantee that if you go bust, they can then sell that stuff and get it back. It's not that hard to get money from banks. So, yeah, we looked when the decision was there. The decision was right. Do you want to expand it? Do we want to spend? Do you want to take another £35,000 of debt on, which is all personally guaranteed, by the way. You'll never get, well, especially when you start, you'll never get a bank loan that is not personally guaranteed. We've got all our business debts are in the business's name, but we have to personally guarantee everything. So if we did go bust, we don't lose that debt. That debt stays with us. So it's a big decision to kind of take on more debt. And I didn't 100% believe in Kogo, in its ability to expand and be big. So we're like, right, no more money. So, but on the flip side, Kogo has basically funded what we're doing now. So all our wages of until we've before we come now, all the developers that we've employed, all the the sales staff, I take a small wage, that's all been funded through Kogo. So Kogo basically has funded my next business. So I'll just say go out there and try it.
What's happened to all those coffee cups?
Oh, they're all people drank out of those.
Hey, they're all gone. Excellent.
Bit of a nightmare, that story. I need to go in a minute. But with the coffee cups, we bought 20,000 coffee cups from China, and they arrived and they started leaking because this company that made them bought lids from a different company who made lids because they didn't do plastic. I didn't know this. And we got these 20,000 cups which were leaking, and I was complaining to China and saying, look guys, I think China is a country, it's the company there, and saying, guys, you've given us these cups that leak, and they're like, use a napkin, can you not offer your customers straws? And I was like, no. So basically the first 6 months of Kogo, we were kind of known as the leaky coffee cup company. But having said that, I think our coffee, we took quite a long time looking at the coffee. Like me and my business partner sat in the car and we drove around the whole country basically, top to bottom, in a car trying espresso cups, espresso blends from different companies. We had about a couple of months where we were drinking about 14 shots of espresso a day in every location we went to, which was usually about 3 locations a day. So we were like shaking in the car at espresso. But from that, we've got a really, really good espresso blend, and people come from all over campus. They walk further than their nearest Costa or whatever to come and buy it from us. So that was worth it, and I think that's what's kept us going, even through the leaky cups. Yeah. People like the coffee, so they come back.
Have you always been entrepreneurial with these ideas, or is your family entrepreneurial?
No, not at all. My mum's an artist, so she was always like do something a bit artistic. And I guess my dad was originally a banker, but then turned musician. So my family's not it's not entrepreneurial at all, really. I think one thing I did do was while I was at university, I was in a society, like a student clubs called SIFE, which is basically Students in Free Enterprise. And from there, we basically did we created little mini projects, but were run like businesses. So that helped a little bit. But I think anybody can do it. It really isn't rocket science. It's just a matter of believing in it, believing you can do it, actually doing it as well, because loads of people have ideas. An idea is worth nothing unless you execute it. So it's really just about doing it rather than thinking you'll do it. That's the main thing. And I think anybody can actually start a business and be really successful in it. Now what you actually notice, I think, a lot of the famous entrepreneurs, when you look at when they actually started a business, it was when they didn't have a job and were messing about on the beach somewhere, and they said, let's try this, because they had nothing to lose. And that's the problem we have now. Everybody has something to lose, and that's why it's such a good idea to start your business up before you get a job. Because once you have a job, you probably get a wife or a husband or something, and then you have little kids, and then it's really hard to go and tell them, by the way, I'm not going to get any more money now. I'm going to go and put my business up. So it's really important to do it while you haven't got any commitments and you're still maybe used to the student lifestyle. So I would say, yeah, anybody can do it. It's just about trying it.